It's time for a little comedy, a little content, and a lot of conversation. It's the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube. And now here's your host, Geno Jones.
Hello, it's showtime. What's happening, everybody? First of all, let me apologize for yesterday's technical difficulties with the audio. As you can see and hear, we don't have that problem today. It is time for the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show. Yes, it is showtime. Live Monday through Friday, right here on my YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And then tag these episodes to everybody you know, okay? Like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones Show channel, right? The Geno Jones YouTube channel and the Geno Jones Show. All of that. Please do that. All right, and if you would like to be a sponsor on this show, if you'd like to advertise, stick around. I'm going to tell you. Or if you would like for me to be your pitch man for your product, good, or service, stick around. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. All right, listen, let's get right into it. Special commentary, special monologue today. So there have been so many people asking the question. Well, I don't know. Well, actually, it has been an ongoing conversation, really, that's gone on for, we're going to be honest about it, 402 years. But about a week or so ago, Senator Tim Scott from the state of South Carolina, right here, said that, I'm paraphrasing, after President Biden addressed the Congress, he said, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, "Let me be very clear, America is not racist." Then a couple days later, President Biden and Vice President Harris said, well, America's not racist, but the systems and institutions still engage in racism. Paraphrasing what they said. So listen, let me translate what President Biden and Vice President Harris what they really wanted to say, but, they had to give a politically correct answer because, after all, they are politicians. But I'm going to keep it simple for you. All right? Is America racist? Yes. For black and brown, Native American, Asian American people, is America racist? Absolutely yes. Now, if you're not a black person, if you're white, and they ask you that question, you'll probably say, no, of course. Some may say, yes, America is racist. But I've seen many comments, well, no, America's not racist. How could it be racist? You had Barack Obama. You have Oprah Winfrey. You have Beyonce. You have Vice President Kamala Harris. How can America be racist? Well, funny you should ask. Here is how. Now, I could talk about the average net worth of a black family is 10% of that of a white family. So the average net worth for a white family, let's say $100,000, because that's roughly what it is. The average net worth for that same black family, making the same amount of money, $10,000. $10,000. Wait a minute. Did you know that black women are the most educated demographic? That means the most educated group if you divide them up, or if you look at the data based on demographics, that's by gender, by race. Black women are the most educated demographic in America. Did you know that black women make about, somewhere between 55 to maybe 60 cents for every $1 that a white man earns? But keep in mind that black women are the most educated demographic here in America. For black men, a black man earns about 87 cents to every $1 that a white man makes. For the same job. Not because one is more skilled, just same qualifications, same education level. That is the pay disparity in America. Now, I could tell you that, which is a fact, did you know that white people actually kill police more than black people? It's data. It's facts. You can Google it, look it up yourself. But black people especially black men, are 3 times more likely to be killed by the police than a white person. But white people kill police officers more than black people. Now, I could still say, of course, there's racism when you go to buy a home, when you try to get a home loan, or when you try to get insurance, when you go to get an appraisal. So when you go to have a bank, or you have people, homeowners, you understand, you get an appraisal on your house. That's like a formal professional assessment on the value of their home. It's called an appraisal. Do you know that on average, a black person's home is appraised nearly $50,000 less than a white person's home for the exact same home? I can own a home here where I live, and a white person in a different zip code, the exact same house, the exact same square feet, the exact same amenities, everything, front yard, backyard, everything the exact same. But my home will appraise nearly $50,000 less than the white person that has the exact same home, same style, everything, just because of the zip code. Or I could go in and talk about the racism in the healthcare system, in the criminal justice system, in education. I could do that, but I'm gonna make it. And then of course, yeah, we could go back. We could go way back and just talk about. Listen, the founding of this nation was founded on the principles of racism, of the enslavement of people from Africa, even before the country officially became America. Like over 150 years before America actually became America. Like in 1619, the country was built, economic foundation was built on the enslavement of African people that were brought here against their will to this country, not to mention the genocide, the intentional murder and displacement of millions of Native Americans. And not to mention that the Constitution, in its original form, stated that blacks were 3/5, not even full humans, were 3/5 human. I could do that, but we don't even have to go back to we don't have to go back 402 years. I can just bring it to 2021. Here's your proof. Did you know that 47 states, since the last presidential election in last November of 2020, since then, less than 6 months, do you know roughly 47 states have passed new laws, especially in states like Georgia and Arizona and Florida, that has made it harder for black people specifically to vote. Why? Because black Americans turned out in record numbers in November and in the January runoff for the senatorial seats in Georgia. Now you have 2 senators. You have the first black senator and the first Jewish senator. So the state of Georgia, down in good old Dixie, is now represented by a black man, a pastor, and a young Jewish brother. Yes. Folks, they're like, so the panic set in. Oh my God, no. We've got to do something. Now keep in mind that black Americans went out and voted in record numbers in the middle of a global pandemic, the worst that we have seen in 102 years. A global pandemic of COVID-19, the coronavirus, that has killed nearly 600,000 Americans right here in America in a year. In spite of that, black Americans turned out to exercise their political power and to exercise their First Amendment right of freedom of speech and expression in the form of casting a vote. Somehow, when black Americans, when we turn up and turn out in large numbers to exercise our political power, take control of our own political future and destiny, and make sure that people who are representing us, quote unquote, representing us, truly represent us in our interest, in our own ideology and point of view, when we do that, somehow, oh, there's been cheating. Oh, wait a minute, these black folks voted in record numbers. Even though all the systems in terms of early voting and mail-in voting, they've existed. And when white people were voting in large numbers, I didn't hear a peep out of anybody saying, wait a minute, sure, a lot of white people that are using this absentee voting and voting early, something must be wrong. They must be cheating. But when black people use the exact same system, when we, in essence, beat you at your own game that you created by the rules that you wrote into law, codified into law, somehow, oh my God, clutch my pearls, hold my beer. There must be cheating. These Negroes have voted in these incredible numbers. Oh my God. If we don't, we have to come up with a way to stop them. We can't let them take control of their future and destiny. Oh no. No, we can't do that. We've got to figure out a way to stop it. Hence, what's happening in 47 states. Oh, wait a minute. One more thing. January 6th. Do you remember what happened on January 6th right here in America, in our nation's capital? Oh, I bet you do. Were you looking at TV? Even if you didn't want to look at it, you couldn't help but see it because it was on every channel. It was on your smartphone and it was on your tablet. It was being streamed all on social media. You could see it right here on YouTube. Yes. As a matter of fact, some of the people, the quote unquote patriots, so-called patriots, who stormed the United States Capitol, were live streaming it right here on YouTube. Why did that happen? Well, now keep in mind, people were killed, 5 people, including a U.S. Capitol police officer. When was the last time that the United States Capitol was stormed? 1812. Yeah, something called the War of 1812. The British soldiers did that. These weren't British soldiers. These were current and former American soldiers and current and former police officers from all across America who were bragging about it, live streaming about it, talking about that it was 1776 and damn it, we've got to take our country back because there's been cheating. And we've got to put that orange dude, as I call him, Orange Hitler, he's our rightful leader. Why? Because they didn't like the election. They didn't like the results of the election. Why is that? Because once again, black Americans, not to mention, black and brown Americans, Asian Americans, specifically black Americans, like I said, showed up and showed out and rose like a phoenix out of the ashes that said, damn it, no more. We are going to take control of our political future. We want to make sure that the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, we want pay equity. We want gender pay equity, racial pay equity. We want schools improved. We want to make sure that there's broadband all across America. That's not just going to benefit black Americans, but it'll benefit the millions. You have more white Americans living in rural areas, way more than you do black Americans. But no, that was just too much for some of these white nationalists, white militia groups. Now keep in mind, the FBI has been warning for over a decade. As a matter of fact, last year, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, in front of Congress, said the biggest domestic terroristic threat, it's not from Al Qaeda or ISIS or the Taliban. It is from white supremacists, white nationalist groups, white militia, racist hate groups that hate blacks and they hate Jews and don't like many law enforcement, which is so weird because you have so many the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys that's looking to start another race war, and the Oath Keepers and the Three Percenters. Many of these quote unquote organizations have current and former military members, the Air Force, the Army, Marines, Navy, Special Forces, not to mention local law enforcement, police officers that are patrolling your neighborhood right now. Some of them stormed the Capitol on January 6th, all because they didn't like the result of an election, because millions specifically, like I said, Black Americans turned out in record numbers. So when somebody asks, is America racist for Black Americans specifically? The answer is yes. Now, that does not mean, is all 330 million Americans racist? No, not at all. Are all white Americans racist? Not at all. Is America and the foundation of America is built and rooted in racism. It's rooted in racism and genocide and misogyny and sexism from its inception until today, because there is what they call systemic racism in every institution that I mentioned early, from banking to purchasing homes, to going to a doctor, to hiring a lawyer, to getting an education, to being involved in the criminal justice system in your courts with judges and lawyers and district attorneys. Every institution in America, there is systemic racism. And there's data to back it up. So you don't have to believe me. You can look it up for yourself. I just gave you a few stats. But in spite of that, Black Americans, we have survived, and not only have we survived, we have thrived, and we will continue to do that. And you know how? Here's the blueprint. Speak to my brothers and sisters out there. There's strength in numbers. Just one quick example. We talk about home ownership. We say, you know what? We want to move in a neighborhood. Sometimes we want to move into a neighborhood. Always call it what do we call a nice neighborhood. Who gets to define what's nice? Primarily, neighborhoods were predominantly, well off in terms of income, white Americans live. As a matter of fact, what's happened, you hear the term gentrification. That's just a real fancy term to where at a neighborhood where you have poverty, and a lot of times neighborhoods where primarily Black Americans, brown Americans, Hispanic Americans may have been living, who may have been just didn't make a lot of money. I'll just keep it simple. I'm not even going to use any big fancy terms. I'm just going to keep it simple for you. Like, good example. I grew up in a neighborhood in Chicago called Inglewood. When I was born, we had a principal lived across the street. We had doctors. We had teachers. Then those people, many of them unfortunately got older. They died. They transitioned, and their kids, for whatever reason, they didn't want to keep the house. And they moved somewhere else because they wanted to live in a fancy neighborhood. Oh, I want to live in this nice neighborhood. A lot of times they'll move into areas. They may be the only Black on the block in the subdivision, maybe one of two, have to face racism. But we have been conditioned to think that if a neighborhood is predominantly white, unless it's really from an economic standpoint, a poor neighborhood, like some of your trailer park areas. But we have been conditioned. The brainwashing of white supremacy has conditioned not just white people, but Black people to think, well, you know what? A nice neighborhood, I need to move. A nice neighborhood moves. A neighborhood that's primarily white. I say, listen, let's flip it. Let's gentrify, what they call why can't we gentrify our own neighborhood? There are many of us. The majority of African Americans in this country do not live in poverty. I'll repeat it. Oh yeah. Is that a news flash? Is that breaking news to you? Well, That's a fact too. There are numbers. You can look it up. Don't take my word for it. There's data to back it up. The majority of black Americans do not live in poverty. So there's enough of us. Why don't we gentrify our own neighborhoods? Why don't we go back into neighborhoods like Inglewood or certain neighborhoods on the east or west side of Detroit? Or now it's probably too late now to get into Brooklyn and Harlem. Even a lot of white Americans, they can't even afford to live in Harlem. You had more, I don't have the numbers, but you have as many, if not more, white Americans living in Harlem than you do black Americans. So why do we have to wait for white Americans to move into our neighborhoods that were economically deprived, that were run down? Why don't we gentrify our own neighborhoods? And do it in numbers. It's strength in numbers. We got sororities, fraternities. We got all kind of different clubs, bike clubs, and Corvette clubs, and just all, and all type of clubs, motorcycle clubs, sport car clubs. Let's get to say, you know what? How about 10 or 12 of us? Why don't we go ahead? Let's take over this block, or take over a couple blocks, and then we don't need a Starbucks. You can have somebody in the neighborhood, somebody that just moved in. One of us, we can open up. You have all these black entrepreneurs. You don't need Starbucks. You can open up your own coffee shop where you sell coffee and croissants maybe. You don't need Starbucks or Panera Bread. Create your own. Open a cleaners. Get together. Maybe open like a small grocery store. Do business with some black farmers. Develop a relationship with some black farmers. And do what else you need to do. You have so many successful African Americans working for, I'm sure, in management at high levels in some of these supermarkets. Create our own supermarkets. We have our own black farmers. Do business with them. Get the fresh fruits and vegetables that in many of these neighborhoods that they call food deserts, where they don't have supermarkets. You can't buy fresh fruits. You can't buy fresh vegetables. And if you don't have a car, it's like nearly impossible, especially if you're elderly or you have a hard time getting around. Maybe you may have some type of disability. You may have issues with your own mobility. We can gentrify our own neighborhoods. And then, wait a minute, maybe, why not open up a bank? We've done it before. This isn't new. There's a blueprint. It happened. It happened in Tulsa. It happened in Tulsa in 1921, 100 years ago. Now, what happened? The neighborhood was burnt down. And those black Americans and their descendants were never made whole. It was burnt down. You had the military that came in. They dropped bombs on Tulsa, Oklahoma, the great race massacre. They called it a race riot. It was a massacre. 1921. The end of this month, the end of May, it'll be exactly 100 years. Google that. So we've done it, not just in Tulsa, in Wilmington, North Carolina, in Rosewood. You had neighborhoods. Harlem was thriving in the 30s and 40s. It was predominantly black. Bronzeville in Chicago, there's a resurgence. So there have been many neighborhoods. As a matter of fact, one of the most prestigious beaches in Southern California, that land that one of the most prestigious beaches is on right now, was owned by black people. So we did it before. We can do it again. We are the dreams. We as black people who are living today, in this moment, in real time, in 2021, we are the dreams of our ancestors that had so much less, didn't have access to the education that many of us got and the opportunities. Yes, we still face systemic racism and oppression, but what they faced, and there weren't cell phone cameras. Folks didn't have Androids and iPhones to where you could capture all the lynchings that was regular, where people turned out like it was a Sunday picnic where people brought little kids and picnic baskets and showed up in their Sunday best suits and ties and hats to watch black men and women being lynched and burned. Our ancestors got through that and sacrificed and were laborers and went and took care of other people's kids and washed their toilets and cleaned their clothes, did their laundry, cleaned their homes, and put up with all kind of crap so we could have the opportunities that we have now. We are the dreams of our ancestors. So we can make those dreams come true. The dreams that we have for our children and grandchildren that we may not even have, we can make those dreams come to life and happen right here, right now. Let's gentrify our own neighborhoods. Let's move back in what people call the hood and flip it. Go back, buy low, don't sell it, keep it. Open up a grocery store, open up a pharmacy. No disrespect to Walmart or CVS. Open up our own drugstores. We've done it before. Open up our own banks. Open up our own real estate companies, insurance companies. It's been done before, and we can do it again. So we can flip this systemic racism thing on its head. But we are stronger together. There, once again, there's strength in numbers. If I punch someone with my open hand like this, I'll probably break a finger. Don't have much power that way. But if I bring these fingers together and form a fist, and if I strike someone, there's a lot of power behind that. And collectively, when we come together, there's nothing that we can't do. Think about what our ancestors did 100 years ago in all these cities and black communities like Tulsa and, like I said, Rosewood, Florida, and Wilmington, North Carolina, and neighborhoods like in Chicago and Detroit. If our ancestors, considering everything, can you imagine what the race, it wasn't even systemic, it was out in the open. It was codified in law, Jim Crow laws. You know, in the 1930s, there was an anti-lynching bill that was trying to be passed through the Congress. Didn't make it. Well, guess what? There is an anti-lynching bill in Congress right now, sitting there waiting to be signed. And nearly 100 years later, the anti-lynching bill still is gone unsigned. But in spite of that, like I said, let's take this systemic institutional racism and say, you know what? I see you and I raise you because we are going to create our own institutions and systems. Open up schools in the neighborhoods that we move back into and gentrify. We're going to remix and put a different spin on this gentrification. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life. As always, God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Show daily, live, right here, Monday through Friday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 5:30 if you're in Chicago, 3:30 out on the West Coast. Like, share, and subscribe to the Geno Jones Show and the Geno Jones Network right here on my YouTube channel. If you'd like to be a sponsor on my show, I would be honored to have you as a sponsor. If you'd like to advertise, I'd be honored to have you advertise. If you are looking for the ultimate pitch man, the king, not the king, the king of pitch men, I am right here for you. Leave me a message right here on my YouTube channel or Geno Jones Show at Gmail. That's how you spell Geno Jones, with a G-E. Geno Jones Show, Gmail. Leave me a message right here. All right. God bless each and every one of you. God, most of all, thank you for letting me do the Geno Jones Daily Variety Show right here. I love you. I really do, each and every one of you. Thank you for watching and for binge watching and sharing and tagging everybody. Continue to like, share, comment, subscribe. Tell everybody else that you know, your friends, your family, co-workers, church members, sorority, fraternity, brothers and sisters, club members in your Corvette club and and your bike clubs and all your other kind of clubs. And when y'all get together and play poker, sit around and just, a bottle of wine and watch movies or your book clubs or whatever. Even folks you don't like. Tell them to watch the Geno Jones Show. Might do them some good. May open their eyes. There's a lot of miseducation. Carter G. Woodson had a book called The Miseducation of the Negro. Well, guess what? The Negro was not the only one that was miseducated. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I said it, because it's true. Racism brainwashed black and white folks. It was done just by a handful of folks. Because racism, sexism, misogyny, bigotry, hate in all its forms has been big business. And it is at the foundation. They are foundational principles on how America was built. Hence, is America racist? I just explained to you why and how. But in spite of that, we're going to remix it. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Like I said, I love each and every one of you. Mother, I love you too. It's Mother's Day week, so we're going to do a very special show, especially either Thursday or Friday for Mother's Day. So a little self-care we're going to talk about. I'm going to have an expert on to talk about moms, especially after this last year with COVID and just the racial reckoning and seeing so many black men, women, and children, unarmed men, women, and children being murdered at the hands of police. It's just been trauma, so much trauma. And you're there for your family, for your elderly parents. You're trying to take care of them and raise your own children or raising your grandchildren and be there for your spouses and your churches and your community and your girlfriends. But who takes care of the caretaker? We're going to talk about that this week, Thursday or Friday, something special for Mother's Day. All right, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed the show. Thank you once again for watching. I really appreciate it. Until tomorrow, Wednesday, as I like to call Wednesday, my Working Divas, for all my Working Divas Wednesday edition of the Geno Jones Show, my variety show, right here, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. Until then, thanks again. Can't thank you enough for watching, and be blessed. We'll see you Wednesday.
Subscribe and tune in to the next episode of the Geno Jones Show, exclusively right here on YouTube.